Hey guys, this is Coach Adrian with Blitz Kids, and today we're going to be going over development moves. So we're going to be starting out. So if you're having a hard time in the opening, you just have to remember three things. Okay, so there's three things that you want to do in every single game. Not some of your games, not half of your games, all of your games. All right, and so those three things at the beginning are activate your pieces, be safe with your king, and control the center of the board. The reason why this is all important is explained in a different video, uh, but I'll give a quick rundown here. So we want to develop our big pieces because they have the power to actually attack this enemy king here. All right, and so when I mean pieces, I'm actually not talking about the king, and I'm not talking about the pawns. I'm talking about the bishops, the knights, the rooks, and the queen. The reason why they're so powerful is because the way that they move. Okay, so you don't want to attack with a pawn. Think about it this way. Pretend a pawn is like a rock. If you're throwing a rock at your opponent, it's going to do very little damage. But if you, let's say, take a bishop and a queen, now you have like a bazooka and you have a whole arsenal of things. You're not throwing rocks anymore. You have bow and arrow, you have a helicopter, tanks. This is what we want to use to get at our opponent because they're more effective, they're more powerful. Okay, so that's why you want to develop your pieces. Another thing is, whenever you develop your pieces, believe it or not, it gives you more options. So let me give you an example of this. So let's say we play pawn to e4 so we can move this bishop out. After pawn to e5, notice this. Okay, the bishop has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 options, right? And out of these moves, he only has really one attacking option, and two attacking options, right? So if the bishop were to move here, this is what I mean by this. If the bishop were to move here or here, they would be attacking something. So we have two attacking options. And let's say we move here. Well, now our opponent's actually guarding this. So that's not a good attacking option. But what we do have is, let me go back. After bishop to c4, this is actually a good attacking option because we are aiming our sights down at f7. And now if our opponent plays, let's say, knight to c6, we can then follow it up with knight to f3 or queen to h5. There's lots of different moves. And the whole idea is your bishop has more options. So it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it goes from having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 options to 9 options, and then whenever you pivot to a different square, you start attacking in the enemy territory, and he has to watch out for those squares. And since you're taking away his territory, he can no longer have those options. So if we go back to this position again, he has two attacks. But we're not just looking at attacking physical things, we're actually thinking about squares. So if we think about this in squares, and we divide the fourth and fifth rank in half like this, then we can notice that the fifth through eighth ranks are our opponents or black's squares. That's his territory. And ours is 1 through 4, or white's territory squares are 1 through 4. So here, these are two attacking squares that we're attacking here. And if we move to bishop to c4, now we're attacking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 enemy territory squares. And this is good because our opponent has to be careful on these squares. For example, if he plays d5, well, now we can just take it away. Whereas before, if he plays, let's say, d5 right away, let's just say we play h3, and he plays d5, well, he's trying to neutralize the threat of the control over d5. So if e takes, now queen takes, and again, now our opponent has some nice enemy squares of ours. We can see all of these highlighted, and the queen is exerting a lot of pressure. So developing our pieces gives us options, and it forces our opponent to be cautious of the squares that we are controlling, and it gives him less options in turn. So think of chess as a battle of space. You're trying, it's a tug of war, and whenever you start off the game, you have an equal amount of space. It's 1 through 4 for white, 5 through 8 for black, and then you're trying to tug more of his space your way. You're trying to control it, okay? You're trying to exert your dominance over your opponent. So development is key whenever you're trying to control key squares. Another thing that we have to be cautious of is getting our king to safety. So if we're not careful, let's say knight f3, knight f6 here, knight takes, and now black plays, let's say knight takes e4. If we don't castle quick, we can very easily run into some type of trap like this. After knight f6, pause your video, see if you can find it. And here, killer move is just knight to c6, and this is going to be game over. Because we're playing a discovered attack on the king, he didn't get his king to safety, or he wasn't allowed to. And now if he plays bishop to e7, we're going to play knight takes d8. And if he plays queen to e7, we're not going to play queen takes e7, we're going to play knight takes e7. And this is still going to be a winning game for white because you're up a queen. So it's important to get your king to safety, especially whenever the e-file is open. Whenever the e-file is open, there's lots of open lines to attack the enemy king. So castle quick whenever the e-file is open, and if it's not, you can actually delay it if it's a closed game, but you don't want to delay it too long, because if you do, again, that center control is important. So everybody's fighting for those center squares, and once it opens up, then everything's exploded and all the lines are opened up down the E files, down the E and D files. So that means if your king's still there in the middle, he's dead. So make sure you castle quickly. So it'd be something like bishop to c4, bishop to c5, and here you can even just castle and play this way. Or like bishop to b5. You know, knight to bishop to c5 is playable, and castle. And here, once you castle quick, then you're ahead of your opponent whenever it comes to attacking. So the last thing is controlling the center. This is obviously important because it gives you control over the game, okay? So you'll be able to attack on the king side and on the queen side and still push in the center. And this is something that every good chess player knows, and you have to follow this rule as well. So an example of maybe not controlling the center or getting away from the center would be something like this. So let's say pawn to e4, our opponent plays, excuse me, not e4, d4, d5, c4, and our opponent plays d takes c4. We can now play knight to c3, and after something like a regular development move, we can even play e4 here. This is a line. And if our opponent doesn't know what he's doing, he can get into some big trouble. Let's say he plays let's say he plays e6 here. We can play bishop takes c4, and we notice the dominance that we have over our opponent in controlling squares. And by controlling these squares with our two pawns, our opponent's bishop can't go here, it can't go here, it only can go here and maybe to b4, b4 probably being the better one. The reason why I can't go here is because d takes c4, and the reason why I can't go here is because of e5, forking these two pieces. Remember that one? That will come in handy. And if bishop to e7, then, I mean, this is pretty passive, and this is not threatening. And we're talking about developing the pieces, right? Well, this is kind of like half developed, and a half developed piece is not nearly as good as a fully developed piece. And basically what that does is it limits its power, and you'll notice that here black is only controlling these two squares, whereas before he's only controlling these two squares, so he didn't really help himself out as far as, you know, giving it a lot of power. So bishop to e7, and then something like knight to f3, and this is a very nice dominating position for white. But you still need to continue development. You still need a castle, and that's my last rule. The helpful tip is always, always, always continue developing all of your pieces, even if you have trouble. So like black here in this position could probably develop this knight with no problem, but this bishop may be a problem child here because the e6 pawn is blocking him. Force yourself to develop this piece. You cannot go on into the middle game leaving a man behind. You don't do that. And if you do, you're playing a piece down in the middle game. You're not that good. You should develop all of your pieces, right? No one's that good. Everybody needs the whole set. It's a team effort. You're not going to have Kobe Bryant sitting on the bench or LeBron James. You're going to have them playing in the game at all times. You're going to have your full army, your full team playing that game. So here we have, let's see, is it white to move? It's black to move. Okay, so yeah, this is a pretty good example of centralization. So I'm actually going to play a quick game with you guys. I'm going to play a quick game, and I'm going to show you, I'm not even going to show the whole game. I'm just going to show you how I can survive the opening. I can play any opening I want by just following these principles. I'm not going to play anything. I'm going to play something that I've never played before, but as long as it has principles to it, we're going to be good to go. So my opponent, we're playing a 2-2-1, so it'll be very quick. So I'm going to play, knight to c6. I never play knight to c6 in my life. Okay, well, we can transition back into e5, and I think I might do that just to stay in a comfortable position. But I'm purposely going to just play d6 next, because this is something I don't play. Notice my opponent is actually developing his pieces, castling. I like that. I'm just developing my pieces, controlling the center, holding it firm. And I'll probably play knight f6, castle short, probably follow suit. And I'm not really worried about this capture because I have this in store. And notice, even though, okay, that was just a blunder. Even though I didn't know the opening, I survived it. And look, I'm up a whole piece and my opponent resigns that quick. So, yeah, this pretty much concludes the video. It doesn't matter, like, even here, going to the analysis board, I wasn't doing great. Matter of fact, I'll turn on the engine and let you guys see that even though I wasn't doing great, I was still okay in the opening. I wasn't ever losing. And I played a completely random move. So here it has it e5, bishop to c4, and then I played d6 on purpose, remember? Because knight f6 is something that I actually know. So my opponent should play c3 here, but then he castles. And then I just play bishop to e7. And look, that's the best move by the computer. But all I'm doing is just developing my pieces, controlling the center, and getting ready for my king to get to safety. I don't know this opening at all. Pawn to d4 was played. The best move is e takes d4. My idea was after knight f6, which is a secondary move. If pawn to d5, now I can play knight to b8. So this was my idea to maybe get to c5. And I'm just following simple rules. And after d takes, queen takes, bishop takes. And the main reason why I'm showing you guys this is because we could continue here, and it's still a playable position. Not great, not like winning for black, but definitely still playable. Knight b d2, and then I was thinking about castling or moving this bishop out. Maybe castle. Yeah, and this is fine position for black. Alright, so thank you guys. I really appreciate you watching this video, and stay tuned. I'll be making some more videos really soon. Thanks. Bye.